We, we are on chapter 41. An idol in South India. You are the first Westerner, Dick, ever to enter that shrine. Many others have tried in vain. At my words, Mr. Wright looked startled, then pleased. We had just left the beautiful Chamundi temple in the hills overlooking Mysore in southern India. There we had bowed before the gold and silver altars of the goddess Chamundi, patron deity of the family of this reigning Maharaja. As a sovereign of the unique honor, Mr. Wright said, carefully stowing away a few blessed rose petals, I will always preserve this flower, sprinkled by the priest with rose water. My companion and I were spending the month of November 1935 as guests of the state of Mysore. The Maharaja H.H. Sri Krishna Raja Vadiyawar IV is a model prince with intelligent devotion to his people. A pious Hindu, the Maharaja has empowered a Mohammedan, the able Mirza Ismail, as his Dewan or Premier. Popular representation is given to the 7 million inhabitants of Mysore in both an assembly and a legislative council. The heir to the Maharaja, H.H. the Yuvraj, Sir Sri Krishna Narasingh Raj Vadiyawar, had invited my secretary and me to visit his enlightened and progressive realm. During the past fortnight, I had addressed thousands of Mysore citizens and students at the town hall, the Maharaja's College, the University Medical School, the 3 mass meetings in Bangalore, at the National High School, the Intermediate College, and the Chetty Town Hall, where over 3,000 persons had assembled. Whether the eager listeners had been able to credit the glowing picture I drew of America, I know not. But the applause had always been loudest when I spoke of the mutual benefits that could flow from exchange of the best features in East and West. Mr. Wright and I were now relaxing in the tropical peace. His travel diary gives the following account of his impressions of Mysore. Brilliantly green rice fields, varied by tasseled sugarcane patches, nestle at the protective foot of rocky hills, hills dotting the emerald panorama like excrescences of black stone, and the play of colors is enhanced by the sudden and dramatic disappearance of the sun as it seeks rest behind the solemn hills. Many rapturous moments have been spent in gazing, almost absent-mindedly, at the ever-changing canvas of God stretched across the firmament. For his touch alone is able to produce colors that vibrate with the freshness of life. That youth of colors is lost when man tries to imitate with mere pigments, for the Lord resorts to a more simple and effective medium. Oils that are neither oils nor pigments, but mere rays of light. He tosses a splash of light here, and it reflects red. He waves the brush again, and it blends gradually into orange and gold. Then with a piercing thrust, he stabs the clouds with a streak of purple that leaves a ringlet or fringe of red oozing out of the wound in the clouds, and so on and so on. He plays night and morning alike, ever changing, ever new, ever fresh. No patterns, no duplicates, no colors, just the same. The beauty of the Indian change in day to night is beyond compare elsewhere. Often the sky looks as if God has taken all the colors in his kit and given them one mighty kaleidoscopic toss into the heavens. I must relate the splendor of a twilight visit to a huge Krishna Maharaja Sagar Dam, constructed 12 miles outside of Mysore. Yoganandaji and I boarded a small bus and with a small boy as official pranker or battery substitute started off over a smooth dirt road just as the sun was setting on the horizon and squashing like an overripe tomato. Our journey led past the omnipresent square rice fields, through a line of comforting banya trees, in between a grove of towering coconut palms with vegetation nearly as thick as in a jungle, And finally approaching the crest of a hill, we came face to face with an immense artificial lake reflecting the stars and fringe of palms and other trees, surrounded by lovely terraced gardens and a row of electric lights on the brink of the dam. And below it, our eyes met a dazzling spectacle of colored beams playing on gay geyser-like fountains, like so many streams of brilliant ink pouring forth, gorgeously blue waterfalls arresting red cataracts, green and yellow sprays, elephants sprouting water, a miniature of the Chicago World Fair, and yet modernly outstanding in this ancient land of paddy fields and simple people who have given us such a loving welcome that I fear it will take more than my strength to bring Yoganandaji back to America. Another rare privilege, my first elephant ride. Yesterday, the Yuvraj invited us to his summer palace to enjoy a ride on one of his elephants, an enormous beast. I mounted a ladder, provided a climb aloft to the howdah or saddle, which is silk cushioned and box-like, and then for rolling, tossing, swaying, and heaving down into a gully, too much thrill to worry or exclaim, but hanging on for dear life. Southern India, rich with historical and archaeological remains, is a land of definite and yet indefinable charm. To the north of Mysore is the largest native state in India, Hyderabad, a picturesque plateau cut by the mighty Godavari river. Broad, fertile plains, the lovely Nilgiris or Blue Mountains, other religions with barren hills of limestone or granite. Hyderabad history is a long, colorful story, starting 3,000 years ago under the Andhra kings and continuing under Hindu dynasties until AD 1294, when it passed to a line of Muslim rulers who reign to this day. The most breathtaking display of architecture, sculpture, and painting in all India is found at Hyderabad, in the ancient rock-sculpted caves of Ellora and Ajanta. The Kailasa at Ellora, a huge monolithic temple, possesses carved figures of gods, men, and beasts in the stupendous proportions of a Michelangelo. Ajanta is the site of 5 cathedrals and 25 monasteries, all rock excavations maintained by tremendous frescoed pillars on which artists and sculptors have immortalized their genius. Hyderabad city is graced by the Osmania University and by the imposing Mecca Masjid Mosque, where 10,000 Mohammedans may assemble for prayer. Mysore state is a scenic wonderland, 3,000 feet above sea level, abounding in dense tropical forests, the home of wild elephants, bison, bears, panthers, and tigers. Its two chief cities, Bangalore and Mysore, are clean, attractive, with many parks and public gardens. Hindu architecture and sculpture achieved their highest perfection in Mysore under the patronage of Hindu kings from the 11th to the 15th centuries. The temple at Belur, at an 11th century masterpiece completed during the reign of King Vishnu Vardhana, is unsurpassed in the world for its delicacy of detail and exuberant imagery. The rock pillars found in northern Mysore date from the 3rd century BC, illuminating the memory of King Ashoka. He succeeded to the throne of the Maurya dynasty, then prevailing. His empire included nearly all of modern India, Afghanistan, and Baluchistan. This illustrious emperor, considered even by Western historians to have been an incomparable ruler, has left the following wisdom on a rock memorial. This religious inscription has been engraved in order that our sons and grandsons may not think of a new conquest as necessary, that they may not think conquest by the sword deserves the name of conquest, that they may see in it nothing but destruction and violence, that they may consider nothing as true conquest save the conquest of religion. Such conquests have value in this world and in the next. So the only conquest I would say is conquering our own minds, our own soul, And that is true to save our soul, to save our religion. And religion is, like Guruji said, spiritual bano. Apni value system is your true religion, your humanity, humility. And there are no boundaries in religion. All religions speak the same language. Ashoka was a grandson of the formidable Chandragupta Maurya, known to the Greeks as Sandro Cottus, who in his youth had met Alexander the Great. Later, Chandragupta destroyed the Macedonian garrisons left in India, defeated the invading Greek army of Seleucus in the Punjab, and then received at his Patna court the Hellenic ambassador Megasthenes. Intensely interesting stories have been minutely recorded by Greek historians and others who accompanied or followed after Alexander in his expeditions to India. The narratives of Arrian, Diodorus, Plutarch, and Strabo the geographer have been translated by Dr. J.W. M. Crindle to throw a shaft of light on ancient India. The most admirable feature of Alexander's unsuccessful invasion was the deep interest he displayed in Hindu philosophy and in the yogis and holy men whom he encountered from time to time and whose society he eagerly sought. Shortly after the Greek warrior had arrived in Taxila in northern India, he sent a messenger, one Sikritos, a disciple of the Hellenic school of Diogenes, to fetch an Indian teacher, Dandamis, a great sannyasi of Taxila. Hail to thee, O teacher Brahmins. On Iskiros, one Sikritos said, after seeking out Dandamis in his forest retreat, the son of the mighty god Zeus, being Alexander, who is the sovereign lord of all men, asks you to go to him. And if you comply, he will reward you with great gifts. But if you refuse, he will cut off your head. The yogi received this fairly compulsive invitation calmly and did not so much as lift up his head from his couch of leaves. I also am a son of Zeus, if Alexander be such, he commented. I want nothing that is Alexander's, for I am content with what I have, while I see that he wanders with his men over sea and land for no advantage, and is never coming to an end of his wanderings. Go and tell Alexander that God, the Supreme King, is never the author of insolent wrong, but is the creator of light, of peace, of life, of water, of the body of man and of souls. He receives all men when death sets them free, being in no way subject to evil, disease. He alone is the God of my homage, who abhors slaughter and instigates no wars. Alexander is no God, since he must taste of death, continued the sage in quiet scorn. How can such as he be the world's master when he has not yet seated himself on a throne of inner universal dominion? Neither as yet has he entered living into Hades, nor does he know the course of the sun through the central regions of the earth, while the nations on its boundaries have not so much as heard his name. After this chastisement, surely the most caustic ever sent to assault the ears of the Lord of the world, the sage added ironically, if Alexander's present dominions be not capacious enough for his desires, let him cross the Ganges river. There he will find a region able to sustain all his men, if the country on his side be narrow to hold him. Know this, however, that what Alexander offers and the gifts he promises are things to me utterly useless. The things I prize and find of real use and worth are these leaves which are my house, these blooming plants which supply me with daily food, and the water which is my drink. While all other possessions which are amassed with anxious care are wont to prove ruinous to those who gather them, and cause only sorrow and vexation, with which every poor mortal is fully fraught. As for me, I lie upon the forest leaves, and having nothing which requires guarding, close my eyes in tranquil slumber. Whereas had I anything to guard, that would banish sleep. The earth supplies me with everything, even as a mother her child with milk. I go wherever I please, and there are no cares with which I am forced to cumber myself. Should Alexander cut off my head, he cannot also destroy my soul. My head alone then silent will remain, leaving the body like a torn garment upon the earth. Whence also is taken, I then, becoming spirit, shall ascend to my God, who enclosed us all in flesh and left us upon earth to prove whether, when here below, we shall live obedient to his ordinances, and who also will require of us all, when we depart hence to his presence, an account of our life, sincere judge of all proud wrongdoing. For the groans of the oppressed become the punishment of the oppressor. So, like he said in his enlightening words, that we are actually only a spirit, and this flesh is literally our coat, which we will shed one day. So all that matters while we are on this earthly plane and we're in this physical body is reciting his name. Like Guruji said, just keep reciting my name, Simran karte jao, because that is the only thing that will go with us, Naam ki kamai, like he said. Let Alexander then terrify with all these threats that those who wish for wealth and who dread death, for against us these weapons are both alike powerless. When we actually connect with Guruji deeply, profoundly, and we know that he's protecting us and his Naam is our shield, then we become fearless, because we know that nothing really matters. At the end of the day, all that matters is what we have earned in terms of Simran and Satsang and Seva. The Brahmins neither love gold nor fear death. Go then and tell Alexander this. Dandimas has no need of aught that is yours, and therefore will not go to you. And if you want anything from Dandamis, come you to him. With close attention, Alexander received through on Sikri Stos the message from the Yogi, and felt a stronger desire than ever to see Dandamis, who, though old and naked, was the only antagonist in whom he, the conqueror of many nations, had met more than his match. Alexander invited Taxila, a number of Brahmin ascetics noted for their skill in answering philosophical questions with pithy wisdom. An account of the verbal skirmish is given by Plutarch. Alexander himself framed all the questions. Which be the more numerous, the living or the dead? The living, for the dead are not. Which breeds the larger animals? The sea or the land? The land, for the sea is only part of the land. Which is the cleverest of beasts? That one with which man is not yet acquainted. Which existed first, the day or the night? The day was first by one day. This reply caused Alexander to betray surprise. The Brahmin added, impossible questions require impossible answers. How best may a man make himself beloved? A man will be beloved if possessed with great power, he still does not make himself feared. How may a man become a god? How may a man become a god? By which that which is impossible for a man to do, which is stronger, life or death? Life, because it bears so many evils. Alexander succeeded in taking out of India as his teacher a true yogi. This man was Swami Swines, called Kalonos by the Greeks because a saint, a devotee of God in the form of Kali, greeted everyone pronouncing her auspicious name. Kalanos accompanied Alexandra to Persia. On a stated day, at Susa, Persia, Kalanos gave up his aged body by entering a funeral pyre in view of the whole Macedonian army. The historians record the astonishment of the soldiers who observed that the yogi had no fear of pain or death, and who never once moved from his position as he was consumed in the flames. Before leaving for his cremation, Kalanos had embraced all his close companions, but refrained from bidding farewell to Alexander, to whom the Hindu sage had merely remarked, I shall see you shortly in Babylon. Alexander left Persia and died a year later in Babylon. His Indian guru's words had been his way of saying he would be present with Alexandra in life and in death. The Greek historians have left us many vivid and inspiring pictures of Indian society. Hindu law, Aryan tells us, protects the people and ordains that no one among them shall, under any circumstances, be a slave, but that enjoying freedom themselves, they shall respect the equal right to it which all possess. For those, they thought, who have learned neither to domineer over nor cringe to others will attain the life best adapted for all vicissitudes of lot. The Indians runs another text, neither put out money at usury, nor know how to borrow. It is contrary to established usage for an Indian either to do or suffer a wrong, and therefore they neither make contracts nor require securities. Healing, we are told, was by simple and natural means. Cures are effected rather by regulating diet than by the use of medicines. The remedies most esteemed are ointments and plasters. All others are considered to be great measure pernicious. Engagement in war was restricted to the Kshatriyas or warrior caste. Nor would an enemy coming upon a husbandman at his work on his land do him any harm. For men of this class, being regarded as public benefactors, are protected from all injury. The land thus remaining unravaged and producing heavy crops supplies the inhabitants with the requisites to make life enjoyable. The Emperor Chandragupta, who in 305 BC had defeated Alexander's general, Seleucus, decided 7 years later to hand over the reins of India's government to his son. Traveling to South India, Chandragupta spent the last 12 years of his life as a penniless ascetic, seeking self-realization in a rocky cave at Shravanbeloga, now honored as a Mysore shrine. Nearby stands the world's largest statue, carved out of an immense boulder by the Jains in AD 983, to honor the saint Gomateswara. The ubiquitous religious shrines of Mysore are a constant reminder of the many great saints of South India. One of these masters, Tayyum Manawar, has left us the following challenging poem. You can control a mad elephant. You can shut the mouth of a bear and the tiger. You can ride a lion. You can play with a cobra. By alchemy, you can eke out your livelihood. You can wander through the universe incognito. You can make vassals of the gods. You can be ever youthful. You can walk on water and live in fire. But control of the mind is better and more difficult. In the beautiful and fertile state of Travancore in the extreme south of India, where traffic is conveyed over rivers and canals, the Maharaja assumes every year a hereditary obligation to expiate the sin incurred by wars and the annexation in the distant past of several petty states to Travancore. For 56 days annually, the Maharaja visits the temple thrice daily to hear Vedic hymns and recitations. The expiation ceremony ends with the Lakshadimpam, or illumination of the temple by 100,000 lights. The great Hindu lawgiver Manu has outlined the duties of a king. He should shower amenities like Indra, collect taxes gently and imperceptibly as the sun obtains vapor from water, enter into the life of his subjects as the wind goes everywhere, mete out even justice to all like Yama, bind transgressors in a noose like Varuna, please all like the moon, burn up vicious enemies like the god of fire, and support all like the earth goddess. In war, a king should not fight with poisonous or fiery weapons, nor kill weak or unready or weaponless foes or men who are in fear, or who pray for protection or who run away. War should be resorted to only as a last resort. Results are always doubtful in war. Madras Presidency on the southeast coast of India contains the flat, spacious, sea-girt city of Madras and Conjeeveram, the Golden City, capital site of the Pallava dynasty, whose kings ruled during the early centuries of the Christian era. In modern Madras presidency, the non-violent ideals of Mahatma Gandhi have made great headway. The white distinguishing Gandhi caps are seen everywhere. In the South, generally, the Mahatma has effected many important temple reforms for untouchables, as well as caste system reforms. The origin of the caste system, formulated by the great legislator Manu, was admirable. He saw clearly that men are distinguished by natural evolution into four great classes: those capable of offering service to society through their bodily labor, those who serve through mentality, skill, agriculture, trade, commerce, business life in general, those whose talents are administrative, executive, and protective rulers and warriors, those of contemplative nature, spiritually inspired, inspiring. Neither birth nor sacraments, nor study, nor ancestry can decide whether a person is twice born. The Mahabharata declares character and conduct can only decide. Manu instructed society to show respect to his members insofar as they possess wisdom, virtue, age, kingship, or lastly wealth. Riches in Vedic India were always despised if they were hoarded or unavailable for charitable purpose. Ungenerous men of great wealth were assigned a low rank in society. Serious evils arose when the caste system became hardened through the centuries into the hereditary order. Social reformers like Gandhi and the members of very numerous societies in India today are making slow but sure progress in restoring the ancient values of caste, based solely on natural qualification and not on birth. Every nation on earth has its own distinctive, misery-producing karma to deal with and remove. India, too, with a versatile and invulnerable spirit, shall prove herself equal to the task of caste reformation. So entrancing is southern India that Mr. Wright and I yearn to prolong our idyll. But time, in its immemorial rudeness, dealt us no courteous extensions. I was scheduled soon to address the concluding session of the Indian Philosophical Congress at Calcutta University. At the end of the visit to Mysore, I enjoyed a talk with Sir C.V. Raman, President of the Indian Academy of Sciences. This brilliant Hindu physicist was awarded the Nobel Prize in 1930 for his important discovery in the diffusion of light, the Raman effect, now known to every schoolboy. Waving a reluctant farewell to a crowd of Madras students and friends, Mr. Wright and I set out for the north. On way, we stopped before a little shrine sacred to the memory of Sadashiva Brahman, in whose 18th century life story miracles cluster thickly. A large Sadashiva shrine at Nehru, erected by the Raja Padukkotai, is a pilgrimage spot which has witnessed numerous divine healings. Many quaint stories of Sadashiva, a lovable and fully illumined master, are still current among the South Indian villages. Immersed one day in Samadhi on the bank of the Kaveri River, Sadashiva was seen to be carried away by a sudden flood. Weeks later, he was found buried deep beneath a mound of earth. As the villagers' shovels struck his body, the saint rose and walked briskly away. Sadashiva never spoke a word or wore a cloth. One morning, the nude yogi unceremoniously entered a tent of a Mohammedan chieftain. His lady screamed in alarm. The warrior dealt a savage sword thrust at Sadashiva, whose arm was severed. The master departed unconcernedly. Overcome by remorse, the Mohammedan picked up the arm from the floor and followed Sadashiva. The yogi quietly inserted his arm into the bleeding stump. When the warrior humbly asked for some spiritual instruction, Sadashiva wrote with his finger on the sand, Do not do what you want, and then you may do what you like. Do not do what you want, and then you may do what you like. The Mohammedan was uplifted to an exalted state of mind and understood the saint's paradoxical advice to be a guide to soul freedom through mastery of the ego. So this is a nice one. Do not do what you want. Then you may do what you like. So first we have to let go of our ego, drop our ego, through Guruji's hukam, and then Guruji anyway, I think showers his favors on us. He really pampers us when we are walking the path, when we really truly walk the talk. That is important. That's the key to walk on talk. The village children once expressed a design so that she was present to see the Madura religious festival 150 miles away. The yogi indicated to the little ones that they should touch his body. Lo, instantly the whole group was transported to Madura. The children wandered happily among the thousands of pilgrims. In a few hours, the yogi brought his small charges home by a simple mode of transportation. The astonished parents heard the vivid tales of the procession of images and noted that several children were carrying bags of Madura sweets. An incredulous youth derided the saint in the story. The following morning, he approached Sadashiva. Master, he says scornfully, why don't you take me to the festival, even as you did yesterday for the other children? Sadashiva complied. The boy immediately found himself along the distant city thong, but alas, where was a saint when the youth wanted to leave? The weary boy reached his home by the ancient and prosaic method of foot locomotion. Time for a sip. Oops. Time to open the door. If you could just excuse me a second. Last days with my Guru. Guruji, I am glad to find you alone this morning. I had just arrived at the Serampur hermitage, carrying a fragrant burden of fruits and roses. Sri Yukteswar glanced at me meekly. What is your question? Master looked about the room as though he were seeking escape. Guruji, I came to you as a high school youth. Now I am a grown man, even with a grey hair or two. Though you have showered me with silent affection from the first hour to this, do you realize that once only on the day of meeting have you ever said, I love you? I looked at him pleadingly. Master lowered his gaze. Yogananda, must I bring out into the cold realms of speech the warm sentiments best guarded by the wordless heart? So many of you will be able to relate to this, because we all ask Guruji, Guruji, do you love me? Do you love me? One day, every time I used to bow to Guruji when he was there in the physical, every time I would say, just in my heart, I would say, Guruji, I love you. And then I think months went by and I would just keep saying, Guruji, I love you. And then one day he looked up at me and he said, I love you too. And I was like, wow, Guruji. He said, haan, main tenu bada pyar karna. So that didn't just make my day. I think it was etched in my heart, those words. And, obviously he loves all of us. And the proof of that is that he's showering his grace on each one of us. And he's transformed our lives. He's transformed our inner landscape as well as our outer landscape. So that is a proof of his love for each one of us. So he doesn't need to, express in words. He expresses in action, in practicality of the way our practical lives change. That is him. That is his love. So Guruji, I know you love me, but my motto is ache to hear you say so. So I resonate with this because we all want something tangible, all of us. Be it as you wish. During my married life, I often yearned for a son to train in the yogic path. But when you came into my life, I was content. In you, I have found my son. 2 clear teardrops stood in Sri Yukteswar's eyes. Yogananda, I love you always. Your answer is my passport to heaven. I felt a weight lift from my heart, dissolved forever at his words. Often had I wondered at his silence, realizing that he was unemotional and self-contained. Yet sometimes I feared I had been unsuccessful in fully satisfying him. His was a strange nature, never utterly to be known, a deep nature deep and still, unfathomable to the outer world, whose values he had long transcended. A few days later, see, Guruji's ways are unfathomable. He, sometimes he comes across, says, Guruji, have you put the receiver off the hook? Aap sun bhi rahe ho hamari baat. But of course, when he's sitting in the seat of our hearts, he knows our every word, because he knows our every thought and he knows our every action. But when we say in our hearts, we really love you, Guruji, I love you, Guruji, just try it. And he will show you. He'll respond to you by saying, I love you too, in his own words, because he's full of love. He's full of mercy and compassion. And he loves each one of us equally. But sometimes we just don't listen because we're so distracted with the worldly noise. Actually, there's so much noise in today's world that it's a challenge to be still and in silence. We have the noise of social media. We have the noise of generally playing games on on our phones. So we're constantly distracted. So he streamlines our thoughts and our emotions also. A few days later, when I spoke before a huge audience at Albert Hall in Calcutta, Sri Yukteswara consented to sit beside me on the platform with the Maharaja of Santosh and the Mayor of Calcutta. Though Master made no remark to me, I glanced at him from time to time during my address and thought I detected a pleased twinkle in his eyes. Then came a talk before the alumni of Serampore College. As I gazed upon my old classmates and as they gazed on their own mad monk, tears of joy showed unashamedly. My silver-tongued professor of philosophy, Dr. Ghoshal, came forward to greet me. All our past misunderstandings dissolved by the alchemist's time. A winter solstice festival was celebrated at the end of December in the Serampore Hermitage. As always, Sri Yukteswara's disciples gathered from far and near. Devotional kirtans, solos in the nectar-sweet voice of Christo Dal, a feast served by young disciples, Master's profoundly moving discourse under the stars in the thronged courtyard of the ashram, memories, joyous festivals of years long past. Tonight, however, there was to be a new feature. Yogananda, please address the assemblage in English. Master's eyes were twinkling as he made this doubly unusual request. Was he thinking of the shipboard predicament that preceded my first lecture in English? I told this story to my audience of brother disciples, ending with a fervent tribute to our Guru. His omnipresent guidance was with me not alone on the ocean steamer, I concluded, but daily throughout my 15 years in the vast and hospitable land of America. After the guests had departed, Sri Yukteswara called me to the same bedroom, where once only after a festival of my early years, I had been permitted to sleep on his wooden bed. Tonight, my Guru was sitting there quietly, a semicircle of disciples at his feet. He smiled as I quickly entered the room. Yogananda, are you leaving now for Calcutta? Please return here tomorrow. I have certain things to tell you. The next afternoon, with a few simple words of blessing, Sri Yukteswara bestowed on me the further monastic title of Paramhansa. That's how he becomes Paramhansa, Yogananda. It now formally supersedes your former title of Swami, he said as I knelt before him. With a silent chuckle, I thought of the struggle which my American students would undergo over the pronunciation of Paramhansa Ji. My task on earth is now finished. You must carry on. Master spoke quietly, his eyes calm and gentle. My heart was palpitating in fear. Please send someone to take charge of our ashram at Puri, Sri Yukteswara went on. I leave everything in your hands. You will be able to successfully sail the boat of your life and that of the organization to the divine shores. How beautiful. I leave everything in your hands. You will be able to successfully sail the boat of your life and that of the organization of the divine shores. It's like Guruji's given each one of us a seva to do. And that seva is what, like he said, Naiya Hamari Par Hoegi. Through our seva, And that seva is a must to do. Whatever seva Guruji has given us, it is a must to do it with complete dedication and devotion. In tears, I was embracing his feet. He rose and blessed me endearingly. The following day, I summoned from Ranchi a disciple, Swami Sevananda, and sent him to Puri to assume the hermitage duties. Later, my guru discussed with me the legal details of settling his estate. He was anxious to prevent the possibility of litigation by relatives after his death for possession of his two hermitages and other properties, which he wished to be deeded over solely for charitable purposes. Arrangements were recently made for Master to visit Kidirpur, but he failed to go. Amulya Babu, a brother disciple, made this remark to me one afternoon. I felt a cold wave of premonition. To my pressing inquiries, Sri Yukteswara only replied, I shall go to Kidirpur no more. For a moment, Master trembled like a frightened child. Attachment to bodily residence, springing up of his own nature, arising from immemorial roots, past experiences of death, Patanjali wrote, is present in slight degree even in great saints. In some of his discourses on death, my guru had been wont to add, just as a long-caged bird hesitates to leave his accustomed home when the door is opened. Guruji, I entreated him with a sob, don't say that. Never utter those words to me. Sri Yukteswara's face relaxed in a peaceful smile. Though nearing his 81st birthday, he looked well and strong, basking day by day in the sunshine of my Guru's love. Unspoken, but keenly felt, I banished from my conscious mind the various hints he had given of his approaching passing. Sir, the Kumbh Mela is convening this month at Allahabad. I showed Master the Mela dates in a Bengali almanac. Do you really want to go? Not sensing Sri Yukteswara's reluctance to have me leave him, I went on. Once you beheld the blessed sight of Babaji at an Allahabad Kumbha, perhaps this time I shall be fortunate enough to see him. I do not think you will meet him there. My guru then fell into silence, not wishing to obstruct my plans. When I set out for Allahabad the following day with a small group, Master blessed me quietly in his usual manner. Apparently, I was remaining oblivious to implications in Sri Yukteswara's attitude because the Lord wished to spare me the experience of being forced helplessly to witness my guru's passing. It has always happened in my life that at the death of those dearly beloved to me, God has compassionately arranged that I be distant from the scene. Our party reached the Kumbh Mela on January 23rd, 1936. The surging crowd of nearly 2 million persons was an impressive sight, even an overwhelming one. The peculiar genius of the Indian people is a reverence innate in even the lowest peasant for the worth of the spirit, and for the monks and sadhus who have forsaken worldly ties to seek a diviner anchorage. Impostors and hypocrites there are indeed, but India respects all for the sake of the few, who illumine the whole land with supernal blessings. Westerners who were viewing the vast spectacle had a unique opportunity to feel the pulse of the land, the spiritual ardor to which India owes her quenchless vitality before the blows of time. The first day was spent by our group in sheer staring. Here were countless bathers dipping in the holy river for remission of sins. There we saw solemn rituals of worship. Yonder were devotional offerings being strewn at the dusty feet of saints. A turn of our heads and a line of elephants, caparisoned horses, and slow-paced Rajputana camels filed by, or a quaint religious parade of naked sadhus, waving scepters of gold and silver, flags, and streamers of silken velvet. Anchorites wearing only loincloths sat quietly in little groups, their bodies besmeared with the ashes that protect them from the heat and cold. The spiritual eye was vividly represented on their foreheads by a single spot of sandalwood paste. Shaven-head swamis appeared by the thousands, ochre-robed and carrying their bamboo staff and begging bowl. Their faces beamed with the renunciate's peace as they walked about or held philosophical discussions with disciples. Here and there under the trees, around huge piles of burning logs, were picturesque sadhus, their hair braided and massed in coals on top of their heads. Some wore beards, several feet in length, curled and tied in a knot. They meditated quietly or extended their hands in blessing to the passing throng, beggars, maharajas on elephants, women in multicolored saris, their bangles and anklets tinkling, fakirs in thin arms held grotesquely aloft, brahmacharis carrying meditation elbow props, humble sages whose solemnity hid an inner bliss. High above the din, we heard the ceaseless summons of the temple bells. On our second Mela day, my companions and I entered various ashrams and temporary huts, offering pranams to saintly personages. We received the blessing of the leader of the Giri branch of the Swami order, a thin ascetical monk with eyes of smiling fire. Our next visit took us to the hermitage whose guru had observed for the past 9 years the vows of silence and a strict fruitarian diet. On the central dais in the ashram hall sat a blind sadhu, Pragla Chakshu, profoundly learned in the Shastras and highly revered by all sects. After I had given a brief discourse in Hindi on Vedanta, our group left the peaceful hermitage to greet a nearby Swami Krishnananda, a handsome monk with rosy cheeks and impressive shoulders. Reclining near him was a tame lioness, succumbing to the monk's spiritual charm, not, I am sure, to his powerful physique. The jungle animal refuses all meat in favor of rice and milk. The Swami has taught the tawny-haired beast to utter Om in a deep, attractive growl, a cat devotee. Our next encounter, an interview with a learned young sadhu, is well described in Mr. Rice's sparkling travel diary. We rode in the ford across the very low Ganges on a creaking pontoon bridge, crackling snake-like through the crowds and over narrow, twisting lanes passing the site on the river bank, which Yogananda pointed out to me as a meeting place of Babaji and Sri Yukteswarji. Alighting from the car a short time later, we walked some distance through the thickening smoke of the sadhu fires and over the slippery sands to reach a cluster of tiny, very modest mud and straw huts. We halted in front of one of these insignificant temporary dwellings, with a pygmy doorless entrance, the shelter of Kara Patri, a young wandering sadhu, noted for his exceptional intelligence. There he sat cross-legged on a pile of straw, his only covering, and incidentally his only possession, being an ochre cloth draped over his shoulders. Truly a divine face smiled at us after we had crawled on all fours into the hut and pronamed at the feet of this enlightened soul, while the kerosene lantern at the entrance flickered weird, dancing shadows on the thatched walls. His face, especially his eyes and perfect teeth, beamed and glistened. Although I was puzzled by the Hindi, his expressions were very revealing. He was full of enthusiasm, love, spiritual glory. No one could be mistaken as to his greatness. Imagine the happy life of one unattached to the material world, free of the clothing problem, free of food craving, never begging, never touching cooked food except on alternate days, never carrying a begging bowl, free of all money entanglements, never handling money, never storing things away, always trusting in God, free of transportation worries, never riding in vehicles, but always walking on the banks of the sacred rivers, never remaining in one place longer than a week in order to avoid any growth of attachment. Such a modest soul, unusually learned in the Vedas and possessing an MA degree and the title of Shastri from Benares University. A sublime feeling pervaded me as I sat at his feet. It all seemed to be an answer to my desire to see the real, the ancient India, for he is a true representative of this land of spiritual giants. So beautiful. So imagine us, a life of when we are unattached to the material world. We don't have to worry about what to wear, what to cook, what to eat, where to store our cash, nothing. That's the life of freedom. I questioned Karapatri about his wandering life Do we have time? What's the time? Okay, 10 more minutes. I questioned Karapatri about his wandering life. Don't you have an extra clothes for winter? No, this is enough. Do you carry books? No, I teach from memory. Those people who wish to hear me. What else do you do? I roam by the Ganges. At these quiet words, I was overpowered by yearning for the simplicity of his life. I remembered America and all the responsibilities that lay on my shoulders. No, Yogananda, I thought sadly for a moment. In this life, roaming by the Ganges is not for you. After the sadhu had told me a few of his spiritual realizations, I shot an abrupt question. Are you giving these descriptions from scriptural lore or an inward experience? Half from book learning, he answered with a straightforward smile, and half from experience. We sat happily a while in meditative silence. After we had left his sacred presence, I said to Mr. Wright, he is a king sitting on a throne of golden straw. We had our dinner that night on the Mela grounds under the stars, eating from leaf plates pinned together with sticks. Dishwashings in India are reduced to a minimum. 2 more days of the fascinating Kumbh, then northwest along the Jamuna banks of Agra. Once again, I gazed on the Taj Mahal. In memory, Jatinder stood by my side, awed by the dream in marble. Then onto the Vrindavan ashram of Swami Keshabananda. My object in seeking out Keshabananda was connected with this book. I had never forgotten Sri Yukteswar's request that I write the life of Lahiri Mahasaya. During my stay in India, I was taking every opportunity of contacting direct disciples and relatives of the Yogavatar, recording their conversations in voluminous notes. I verified facts and dates and collected photographs, old letters, and documents. My Lahiri Mahasaya portfolio began to swell. I realized with dismay that ahead of me lay arduous labors in authorship. I prayed that I might be equal to my role as biographer of the colossal guru. Several of his disciples feared that in a written account their master might be belittled or misinterpreted, because we can never actually fully express, or not fully, but even we can't partially express Guruji's greatness and his supremacy. So it's very hard to even write books on him. One can hardly do justice in cold words to the life of a divine incarnation. Panchonan Bhattacharya had once remarked to me, other close disciples were similarly satisfied to keep the Yoga Avatar hidden in their hearts as the deathless preceptor. Nevertheless, mindful of Lahiri Mahasaya's prediction about his biography, I spared no effort to secure the substantiate the facts of his outward life. Swami Keshabananda greeted our party warmly at Vrindavan. In his Katyani Pet Ashram, an imposing brick building with massive black pillars set in a beautiful garden, he ushered us at once into a sitting room adorned with an enlargement of Lahiri Mahasaya's picture. The Swami was approaching the age of 90, but his muscular body radiated strength and health. With long hair and a snow-white beard, eyes twinkling with joy, he was a veritable patriarchal embodiment. I informed him that I wanted to mention his name in my book on India's masters. Please tell me about your early life. I smiled entreatingly. Great yogis are often uncommunicative. Keshabananda made a gesture of humility. There is little of external moment. Practically, my whole life has been spent in the Himalayan solitudes, traveling on foot from one quiet cave to another. For a while, I maintained a small ashram outside Haridwar, surrounded on all sides by a grove of tall trees. It was a peaceful spot, little visited by travelers owing to the ubiquitous presence of cobras. Keshabananda chuckled. Later, Ganges flood washed away the hermitage and cobras alike. My disciples then helped me to build this Vrindavan ashram. One of our party asked the Swami how he had protected himself against the Himalayan tigers. Keshabananda shook his head. In those high spiritual altitudes, he said, wild beasts seldom molest the yogis. Once in the jungle, I encountered a tiger face to face. At my sudden ejaculation, the animal was transfixed as though turned to stone. Again, the Swami chuckled at his memories. Occasionally, I left my seclusion to visit my guru in Benares. He used to joke with me over my ceaseless travel in the Himalayan wilderness. You have the mark of wanderlust on your foot, he told me once. I'm glad that your sacred Himalayas are extensive enough to engross you. Many times, Keshavananda went on. But both before and after his passing, Lari Maharishi had appeared bodily before me. For him, no Himalayan height is inaccessible. 2 hours later, he led us to the dining patio. I sighed in silent dismay. Another 15-course meal. Less than a year of Indian hospitality, and I gained 50 pounds. Yet it would have been considered the height of rudeness to refuse any of the dishes carefully prepared for the endless banquets in my honor. In India, nowhere else, alas, a well-padded Swami is considered a delightful sight. After dinner, Keshavananda left me to a secluded nook. We have 2 more pages. Oh no, we have a slightly more. Should I go on to finish the chapter or shall we complete it tomorrow? Please.
Yeah, Auntie, sure.
Should we finish it?
Yes,
It's just
please.
literally 1, 2 pages, 3 pages.
Okay.
Your arrival is not unexpected, he said. I have a message for you. I was surprised. No one had known of my plan to visit Keshavananda. While roaming last year in the northern Himalayas near Badrinarayan, the Swami continued, I lost my way. Shelter appeared in a spacious cave, which was empty, though the embers of a fire glowed in a hole in a rocky floor. Wondering about the occupant of this lonely retreat, I sat near the fire, my gaze fixed on the sunlit entrance to the cave. Keshavananda, I am glad you are here. These words came from behind me. I turned, startled, and was dazzled to behold Babaji. The great Guru had materialized himself in a recess of the cave. Overjoyed to see him again after many years, I prostrated myself at his holy feet. I called you here, Babaji went on. That is why you lost your way and were led to my temporary abode in this cave. 'Tis a long time since our last meeting. I am pleased to greet you once more. The deathless master blessed me with some words of spiritual help, then added, I give you a message for Yogananda. He will pay you a visit on his return to India. Many matters connected with this Guru and with the surviving disciples of Lari will keep Yogananda fully occupied. Tell him then that I won't see him this time, as he is eagerly hoping, but I shall see him on some other occasion. I was deeply touched to receive from Keshavananda's lips this consoling promise from Babaji. A certain hurt in my heart vanished. I grieved no longer that, even as Sri Yukteswar had hinted, Babaji did not appear at the Kumbh Mela. Spending one night as guests of the ashram, our party set out the following afternoon for Calcutta. Riding over a bridge of the Jumna River, we enjoyed a magnificent view of the skyline of Vrindavan just as the sun set fire to the sky, a veritable furnace of vulcan in color, reflected below us in still waters. The Jumna beach is hallowed by memories of the child Sri Krishna, here engaged with innocent sweetness in his leelas with the gopis, exemplifying the supernal love which ever exists between a divine incarnation and his devotees. The life of Lord Krishna has been misunderstood by many Western commentators. Scriptural allegory is baffling to literal minds. A hilarious blunder by a translator will illustrate this point. The story concerns an inspired medieval saint, the cobbler Ravidas, who sang in the simple terms of his own trade of the spiritual glory hidden in all mankind. Under the vast vault of blue lives the divinity clothed in hide. One turns aside to hide a smile on hearing the pedestrian interpretation given to Ravidas' poem by a Western writer. He afterwards built a hut, set up in it an idol which he made from a hide and applied himself to its worship. Ravidas was a brother disciple of the great Kabir. One of Ravidas' exalted chelas was the Rani of Chittor. She invited a large number of Brahmins to a feast in honor of her teacher, but they refused to eat with a lowly cobbler. As they sat down in dignified aloofness to eat their own uncontaminated meal, lo, each Brahmin found at his side the form of Ravidas. This mass vision accomplished a widespread spiritual revival in Chittor. In a few days, our little group reached Calcutta. eager to see Sri Yukteswara. I was disappointed to hear that he had left Sarampur and was now in Puri, among about 300 miles to the south. Come to Puri Ashram at once. This telegram was sent on March 8th by a brother disciple to Atu Chandra Roy Chowdhury, one of Master's chelas in Calcutta. News of the message reached my ears. Anguished at its implications, I dropped to my knees and implored God that my Guru's life be spared. This just reminds me when Guruji used to say, "Mere vasse koi part nahi karda, mainu koi nahi puchhta kissa Guruji, apna sab batate rehte hain." So we must pray, and the way we give energy to our Guru is by reciting the mantra jap. The mantra jap is a very powerful jap that further purifies us and empowers him. So it is very important to keep reciting the mantra jap as much as we can. As I was about to leave Father's home for the train, a divine voice spoke within. Do not go to Puri tonight. Thy prayer cannot be granted. Lord, I said, grief-stricken, thou dost not wish to engage with me at tug of war at Puri, where thou wilt have to deny my incessant prayers for Master's life. Must he then depart for higher duties at thy behest? In obedience to the inward command, I did not leave that night for Puri. The following evening, I set out for the train. On the way at 7 o'clock. A black astral cloud suddenly covered the sky. Later, while the train rode toward Puri, a vision of Sri Yukteswara appeared before me. He was sitting very grave of countenance with a light on each side. Is it all over? I lifted my arms beseechingly. He nodded, then slowly vanished. As I stood on the Puri train platform the following morning, still hoping against hope, an unknown man approached me. Have you heard that your master is gone? He left me without another word. I never discovered who he was, nor how he had known where to find me. Stuck against the platform wall, realizing that in diverse ways my Guru was trying to convey to me the devastating news. Seething with rebellion, my soul was like a volcano. By the time I reached the Puri hermitage, I was nearing collapse. The inner voice was tenderly repeating, collect yourself, be calm. I entered the ashram room where Master's body, unimaginably lifelike, was sitting in the lotus posture, a picture of health and loveliness. A short time before his passing, my Guru had been slightly ill with fever. But before the day of his ascension into the infinite, his body had become completely well. No matter how often I looked at his dear form, I could not realize that his life had departed. His skin was smooth and soft. In his face was a beatific expression of tranquility. He had consciously relinquished his body at the hour of mystic summoning. The Lion of Bengal is gone, I cried in a daze. I conducted the solemn rites on March 10th. Sri Yukteswara was buried with the ancient rituals of the Swamis in the garden of his Puri ashram. His disciples later arrived from far and near to honor their Guru at the vernal equinox memorial service. The Amrita Bazar Patrika, leading newspaper of Calcutta, carried his picture and the following report. The death Bandara ceremony for Srimad Swami Sri Yukteswara Giri Maharaj, aged 81, took place at Puri on March 21. Many disciples came down to Puri for the rites. One of the greatest expounders of the Bhagavad Gita, Swami Maharaj, was a great disciple of Yogi Raj Sri Shama Charan Lari Mashe of Benares. Swami Maharaj was the founder of several Yogoda Satsang, self-realization fellowship centers in India, and was a great inspiration behind the yoga movement, which was carried to the West by Swami Yogananda, his principal disciple. It was Sri Yukteswara's prophetic powers and deep realization that inspired Swami Yogananda to cross the oceans and spread in America the message of the masters of India. His interpretations of the Bhagavad Gita and other scriptures testify to the depth of Sri Yukteswara's command of the philosophy, both Eastern and Western, and remain as an eye-opener for the unity between Orient and Occident. As he believed in the unity of all religious faiths, Sri Yukteswara Maharaj established Sadhu Sabha with the cooperation of leaders of various sects and faiths for the inculcation of a scientific spirit in religion. At the time of his demise, he nominated Swami Yogananda, his successor, as the president of Sadhu Sabha. India is really poorer today by the passing of such a great man. May all fortunate enough to have come near him inculcate in themselves the true spirit of India's culture and sadhana, which was personified in him. I returned to Calcutta, not trusting myself as yet to go to the Serampore Hermitage with his sacred memories. I summoned Prafulla, Sir Yukteswar's little disciple in Serampore, and made arrangements for him to enter the Ranchi school. The morning you left for the Allahabad Mela, Prafulla told me, must have dropped heavily on the Davenport. Yogananda is gone, he cried. Yogananda is gone, he added cryptically. I shall have to tell him some other way. He sat then for hours in silence. My days were filled with lectures, classes, interviews, and reunions with old friends. Beneath a hollow smile and a life of ceaseless activity, a stream of black brooding polluted the inner river of bliss, which for so many years had meandered under the sands of all my perceptions. Where has that divine sage gone? I cried silently from the depths of a tormented spirit. No answer came. It is best that Master has completed his union with the cosmic beloved, my mind assured me. He is eternally glowing in the dominion of deathlessness. Never again may you see him in the old Serampore mansion, my heart lamented. No longer may you bring your friends to meet him or proudly say, behold, there sits India's Janavtar. Mr. Wright made arrangements to our party to sail from Bombay for the West in early June. After a fortnight in May of farewell banquets and speeches at Calcutta, Miss Bletch, Mr. Wright, and myself left in the Ford for Bombay. On our arrival, the ship authorities asked us to cancel our passage, as no room could be found for the Ford, which we would need again in Europe. Never mind, I said gloomily to Mr. Wright. I want to return once more to Puri. I silently added, let my tears once again water the grave of my Guru. Jai Guruji. So when Guruji left us in the physical, we all felt orphaned and we felt lost and alone until we witnessed the growing Sangat and realized that his spirit lives on and he is blessing multiple or millions of people world over. And likewise, today we are holding a satsang at home here in Delhi. I am doing one after a long time, after a year. So I will take your leave as I'm inviting Guruji home, and I'm sure that he will be visiting all of us and spreading his love and grace on each one of us. Thank you. Jai Guruji.
Thank you, Auntie. Jai Guruji. Thank you, Sangatji.